Here's what's happening in the news today. I came across an article which actually came out yesterday, but it's that time of year again where the United States government is in need of more money to stay in operation, which means they have to borrow money. And so here it quotes Jack Lew, the Treasury Secretary, as saying that basically we need to raise the debt limit to stop unnecessary risk. And so here's a short article from CNBC. I'll post it below this video so you can read it for yourself. But basically, same thing has happened pretty much every year for the last, since 1917 for the most part. And I'll get into the historical aspect of it in a little bit. But looks like every year, give or take, there is a new fiscal budget set in place, which pretty much says that we need X amount of dollars to operate and a couple dollars on top of that to pay the interest off last year's debt type of ordeal. So pretty much every year, more treasuries and things like that are issued for the most part to fund operations. And so a couple things that stood out in this little piece here that I wanted to mention was how it talks about if the debt ceiling isn't raised, then it will cause a real threat in the government possibly defaulting or it affecting the credit rating of our country. And so this quote here says, in the past, failure to raise the debt limit in a timely manner has been negatively impacted businesses, consumer confidence, financial markets, and the credit rating of the United States. To avoid these unnecessary risks, I respectfully urge Congress to raise the debt limit as soon as possible. And so once again, the main point of this whole thing is just the idea that we have to every year raise the debt limit. The debt limit, the debt. Debt, in my opinion, those four words, or four letters, I'm sorry, will end up being probably the most, it's the most untalked about subject in regards to this whole nation in general, but yet will be the biggest downfall of our nation. It is the biggest downfall of our nation. The fact that we are now currently at 18 trillion plus, a number that is just through the roof, hard to fathom and understand, but yet we're at our limit. We've exceeded our limit, and we've been doing it year after year for decades. And so just to give you a little historical aspect of, what the debt ceiling actually means and things like that, I want to take it here, Wikipedia, just a good way of getting a quick explanation of things. But it basically says that prior to 1917, the United States did not have a debt ceiling, with Congress either authorizing specific loans or allowing treasuries, the Treasury to issue certain debt instruments and individual debt issues for specific purposes. So pretty much, prior to 1917, if you didn't have it, you couldn't spend it for the most part. And also, being that our monetary system was a little different then, where it was based upon the amount of gold that you actually had, because that's how things were funded, basically upon exchanging gold. And so pretty much after 1917, due to World War I, with the Second Liberty Bond Act of 1917, which is pretty much a big fundraiser to fund the entrance into the war. And that's pretty much when the whole idea of borrowing to fund operations pretty much came into play. And so here it gives a lot of detailed information as far as how all of these acts, the Second Liberty Bond Act, the Public Debts Act, all these things were amended year after year after year. So it says subsequent public debt acts amended the aggregate debt limit in 1942, 43, 44, 45, and so on. So pretty much ever since then, every year, give or take, because some type of activity, government, our government, the federal government itself being an entity that can only consume, they can't really create anything, so they have to borrow in order to exist. Every year just pretty much change the law saying, hey, we need more money for this and things like that. And so it's been said that approximately it's been changed, I want to say close to about 90 times or so. And so here at the very bottom it gives you just the table of historical debt ceiling levels, and starting off here, 1940 was $49 billion, and then 41 is 65 and 42. So every year, pretty much it just grows 300, 309, 315, 324, all the way till present time where we are now in the trillions. We are in the trillions. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, this graph here pretty much tells you and gives you a visual standpoint of what it actually looks like on a graph. And so starting in 81, we had the Reagan era, every year, he had to borrow more money. to keep things going. Under the first Bush, he raised more money, raised more money, raised more money. Under Clinton, a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, a couple dollars here. Under the last Bush, even more. We went into, today's 9/11. So of course, from 9/11, based upon all the things that transpire, and pretty much America just entering every country looking for suspected terrorists and things like that, cost money. So of course we had to borrow that. So borrow, 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 and then you take it on to where we're currently at now under Obama, where it ended off at about 10 or so trillion under the Bush. But then, now we're in 2015, and from pretty much Obama's inception all the way till, it ended in 2012. So we're pretty much from here, probably to the top of here, of just the debt that's needed to keep things running. And so one thing that's not talked about, but those four letters, DEBT, will be the the talk of the century. How the 21st century was a debt-filled time where the only thing kept things normal was debt. And so once again, I'm pretty confident to say that the debt ceiling will be raised. Just because if it isn't raised, then everything comes crumbling down. But what that ultimately means is government borrows money, sells these bonds into the open market. The Fed and other entities buy it up, and then they begin printing paper, and then the paper hits the mainstream, and we work for it and save it and do everything like that, to where you can only borrow for so long before it all comes tumbling down, in my opinion. And so this is just what's happening in the news, which is a major subject matter worth investigating for yourself. So love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Have a good one.